Hey guys, welcome back to the second part. Here's just going to be more of the base coat, just filling in the rest of the torso, the arms, and I think maybe I got to the helmet within this 10-minute segment. Again, just being careful not to put the base coat on any of the segments between the armor or any of the recesses that intend to be black or have a really darker shade. Some of it I can cover up when I come back with the Citadel wash. And one thing to point out, periodically throughout this process, it is necessary to re-stir your paint. Maybe add a drop of water or add a drop of flow improver. Some people actually mix up a little dropper bottle with a few drops of detergent and a majority water. So that way they can when they add water, they don't have to remix the ratio of soap to water, and they don't have to worry about changing the way the paint is going on the model. So it's a handy trick. Mix up your homemade flow improver, or just add flow improver to water, and then that way you can just add a few drops as you go, because your paint will start to dry out. One thing you can add is what's called a fluid retardant. And what that does is it slows the paint from drying. The problem with it is if you add too much, the paint literally won't dry. It will have an oily consistency, and basically it'll just flake right off the model. Like once you get it all painted, if you were to touch it, it would just kind of smudge right off. I use it on big projects, or when I'm doing like a assembly line painting and I've got a lot of paint mixed up. I'll add a couple of drops of that, maybe one drop, and it significantly slows the drying of the paint. It's also good if you want to do a lot of wet blending. I've never really been very good at that. And this is one of the reasons why I like to paint the model without the arms or without the backpack. It's easier to get into these little crevices here. The good thing is everything around these pieces, with the exception of the shoulder pads, is going to be the same color. So if you slip a little bit, it's okay. You just want to make sure that you're not getting a huge buildup of paint in the places that you're going to have to revisit. The arm placement here is problematic because I want to avoid getting paint on the eagle on the chest, but I also want to be able to get the part around the neck there, or gorget, I guess it's called. In some cases, I will just leave a spot. Maybe if take some watered down paint, like really thinned, and kind of allow it to run into that area, and then wait a while and then do that again, because the paint will flow pretty much along those lines, and the pigment will settle, and it'll give you pretty much the same effect. And since it's a relatively hidden piece, somebody would really have to be looking for that to see what you've done. Another option, if it really becomes problematic, is to snap the arm off and just re-glue it. Depending on how much work you put into the conversion, or how detailed the model is, if you use green stuff or anything like that, might not be advisable. But if it's just a regular conversion, an addition of some part, then you can typically snap that off and really get at it. The downside to that is sometimes it can lead to a lot more work. You'll have to file the piece to get the glue off before you can glue it back, in most cases. Super glue doesn't like to bond to super glue that's already there. Just adjusting the camera there to see the viewfinder. Make sure I'm staying on my mark. Here I'm refreshing my paint. Sorry guys. I was going to edit this out, but it looks like I failed to notice that part of the video, so it's just a few seconds or a few minutes, and I doubt it's a few minutes. But yeah, so basically I'm having to re-add the flow improver, a few drops of water, and stir up the paint. And if I had that dropper pre-mixed, it would have taken me just a few seconds. Two, I take that opportunity to clean my brush and get off any dried paint, because as you paint, the paint begins to dry and your brush gets stiff, and then it'll start to clump the paint, and then you end up with partially dried paint getting brushed onto the model, and it really doesn't look very good. It comes out chunky. So with the face, with the helmet, I'm just trying to avoid that eye socket and the respirator pieces, because those of course are going to be either metallic or whatever the lens color is that I go with, which will be green. I'm also trying to avoid the little targeting lens there. Getting around the hand again becomes kind of problematic. Though it's not easy to see, throughout this I make little mistakes. Getting paint where I don't want it to be, but one of the parts of going back through this is doing cleanup. I will include the cleanup process just to kind of show how many different steps you go through before you can walk away from it, or finally just tell yourself it's done, put it down. Alright guys, looks like we're coming up on the 10-minute mark, so I'll have to continue this in the third part. It's going to go more than 3 parts apparently.